And we will start with Javed Appiah, who has been until 2019 the special advisor to the Director General of the International Organization of Migration. What I really liked about him and about Javed is that among his responsibilities, and this was what he has been known for, is constantly searching for effective strategies and policies for the management and governance of human mobility and regional and global levels. Javed has, while he has been advisor, I've always seen you this as this Javed, despite the bio, I've always seen you as this as bigger than even IOM. Even though I knew you as IOM, simply because of the way you are able to deconstruct and construct and put out their challenges for us to think about, go beyond our institutions and look at what is emerging, what the world, what the universe is saying, and how we are preparing ourselves to respond to that. And it's good to start with you, therefore. And I know you've done some fantastic thinking on this in preparation to this conversation. We've had an exchange, and I know that some of your thoughts are very provoking and challenging of the human spirit, and for us, and even for policymakers, and for us who are engaged in migration discourse on a day-to-day basis, to see what is it that we must be looking at, what has COVID taught us. And I would like you therefore to start off with start this discussion off with that focus as to, are we, will we have to, is this a time for a reset? And your and to look at COVID-19 as what are the opportunity that it has given us to think of mobility of persons and migrants differently. Is there a global approach that needs to be relooked at? Was the GCM Objective 5 sufficient in talking about regular pathways, or do we have to dig much more deeper into this? So start off us, Javed, with this, with your own thoughts on Objective 5, and as you deliberate on them. Javed.
Thank you very much, William, and thank you very much for your kind words. Greetings to all participants and to some old friends who are listening and taking part in this conversation today. William, I'd like to be very brief in my, I'm pleased to note that this is a very event. I'm going to be very brief in my comments, and in fact will bounce off the ones you have just made. I'd like to start with, first of all, a brief word about the significance of Objective 5. We're all familiar with GCM, and we know that the GCM is chock-a-block with hugely important objectives. I'm sure that each of us has somewhere in there a favorite objective, or perhaps a few preferred objectives. There are some hugely significant ones that deal, for instance, with the issue of rights or the issue of protection. There are ones I like very much that deal with development, and we could go on and on. But since we were on Objective 5 today, I would venture to call it a key stone objective. I'm not going to say it's more important than the others. The GCM is an integrated package, and we should not pit one objective against another. And yet I would call Objective 5 a keystone objective, because without it, a lot of the rest doesn't make sense. Without it, we continue to try to manage a messy, complicated, and chaotic world of mobility. Without it, we look at protection as a remedy. We run after it. Very often, after people have been forced to move, we try to fix the situation. Objective 5, and I'll read it for reference, is crisp but important. Enhance availability and flexibility of pathways for regular migration. Without it, as I said, it's catch-up policy. It is saying that migration happens, very often, unfortunately, in irregular ways, and then we catch up and we try to fix the problem. But if we can truly, effectively implement Objective 5, then we can aspire to migration as a planned and predictable phenomenon. And detection then becomes part of that planned and predictable approach. So that's my first point. My second point, William, echoes what you have said. It's about the context in which we find ourselves. The unusual and totally unforeseen migratory circumstances of the moment. No one had foreseen it. No one could have predicted it. Predicted what I would call the great migratory pause, which the world is experiencing now. I have a feeling that students in the future will look back and refer to it as the great migratory pause at the end of the second decade of the 21st century. It caught everyone by surprise, but it is here, firmly installed, if somewhat hurriedly, often chaotically installed since the beginning of the year. And who knows how long this migratory moratorium will end? How long will it be before it will end? Now, here's something that is equally surprising. This moratorium was not triggered by any of the familiar social, economic, political determinants of migration, the ones we're very familiar with and we talk about all the time. No. This pause is due to a virus that came out of nowhere. But we know that it's already had an amazing impact. So as not to take time, I won't give many examples, but I'll just mention that in a so-called traditional country of migration like Australia, the net migration level for financial year 2020 to 2021 is now forecast at just 34,000, whereas it was expected to be, it was planned to be 210,000. Huge difference, huge impact. And therefore, as we dwell on this objective, consider what we're going to do about it to move it forward, we must take account of the fact that we are doing so in totally unforeseen circumstances. Which leads me to my third point, which is really a question, William, and that is there somewhere in here the opportunity for a great reset? It's clear that there is an opportunity here for a great experiment. For us to stop and ask ourselves the question, is migration really the essential part of the social and economic fabric of our contemporary world or not? Many of us believe, have believed, have spoken about, have advocated for. But is that really the case? What impact will there be? and what is going to be on the other side. And can that reset help us move away from the situation which has been the case until now? And with a little bit of exaggeration, I will sum it up by saying that we have lived in recent years a situation where migration works largely to the benefit of the powerful, the wealthier, the more highly skilled, and works to the disadvantage of wealthy and the less highly skilled. And I would like to set this discussion rolling by asking ourselves the question, can there be change? Can we look forward to change? Will that pause be a constructive one? And I'll stop here, William.
Wow, thank you, Javed. I think you have started off with some very provocative thoughts. I like that idea. I like the whole idea of GCM Objective 5 being a keystone objective. I like the whole idea that you have framed it as for so long we have been playing catch up. And now we get a chance to pause and reset. And can we rise up to the challenge of looking at migration as something that is so integral to our world? And can we rise up to that challenge? Fantastic idea. The idea of even a pause to that this was not premeditated. This has come upon us, and therefore it gives us this whole opportunity to think and to reflect and to see how we can build back. The Secretary General of the UN has said, build back better. And some of that build back better is now being discussed, but I have yet to hear it in the brave new way of thinking that you have put forward just now, is recognizing migration as so integral to the world that we live in, and not to to build back better, not in a program of catching up where we are constantly seeing protection as a remedy, but seeing protection as integral to the whole uh, program. And this is something that will be fantastic to see how we move into that. And I'll ask you, therefore, even as you've said this, from what you are seeing now in the way states have kind of responded, uh, do you think the initial responses, and you can think about it when I come back to you, do you think the initial responses of states and even institutions has shown that we are rising up to this challenge? And as you think and deliberate on that, I will